Glad you could join us on our news desk this hour. Thank you so much for being with us. Here are the headlines. Lusaka Mayor Wilson Kalumba has died. The opposition UPND has shunned the National Democracy Stakeholders Summit organized by the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID. Police in Mansa have arrested a couple for stealing 12 boxes of medical drugs from the District Health Office. With the news in detail, my name is Machamanda. Lusaka Mayor Wilson Kalumba has died. Town Clerk Alex Mwansa has confirmed the death of Mr. Kalumba to Q News. Mr. Mwansa says the mayor died this morning around 11:20 at the University Teaching Hospital where he was receiving treatment. He says it is not yet clear what has caused Mr. Kalumba's death, but that he was suffering from kidney failure. We have more in this report.
Described by many as a man of innovative thinking, Lusaka Mayor Wilson Kalumba is no more. Other than being Lusaka Mayor, Mr. Kalumba was an accountant qualified under the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, SCCA, following his studies at Emil Wolf College in London, and he was also a fellow member of the Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants, ZICA. Mr. Kalumba later on obtained his Master of Business Administration MBA degree from Edinburgh Business School at Heriot-Watt University in Scotland, United Kingdom, and he was also a certified forensic accountant, a specialized designation awarded by the American College of Forensic Examiners in the United States. He held a leadership development program in strategic financial analysis for business evaluation from Harvard Business School at Harvard University. Other certifications include being associate member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitration Zambia branch and also being a certified credit rating analyst by Moody's. The late had over 24 years work experience, most which with Bank of Zambia, where he worked for 18 years before leaving to start a new venture in 2018. He was deputy director in the Bank Supervision Department, where he was responsible for assessing the financial performance and condition of commercial banks and the banking industry, thereby contributing to safeguarding the people's money in the banks by ensuring that banks remained financially safe and sound. This man had deep insights for high financial performance benchmarks with a flair for problem solving, covering complex issues. For 7 years, between 2001 and 2007, he was based in the United Nations headquarters, New York, USA, serving appointments by the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Kofi Annan, and Ban Ki-moon, a financial and economic sanctions expert, where he was responsible for monitoring the implementations of sanctions against identified targets. This appointment took him around the world to engage the national authorities in order to assess effectiveness of national measures, and in process he developed diplomatic skills to handle sensitive matters with national governments. He was elected Lusaka Mayor in 2006 till today, 15th May 2018. Announcing his death, local government minister Vincent Mwale said he died this morning around 11 hours.
Workaholic is how many Zambians would describe the late Lusaka Mayor Wilson Kalumba. I had an opportunity to speak to some of the Lusaka residents, and this is what they had to say.
Especially that one feel kono kuwala kwavo kwisapokelera fyati n'abafwa awo manti ntuliyaba kulila na ituikata tuliyaba chirishi kalfa ya Kalumba bali abantu bamutadde sana abali ya working bali hapo kubantu so natupati Kalumba n'abafwa ene shati development kwena tuliyaba chirishi pamunga ifuero twachipokerera aya mashiwi nachitupesha amano ero kairi namona na projects ayengi aya market aya lechitika ero ali mulimo wavo
tulire bwino babyashibeso bali tubombera bashiteidali bali kala nabena twaleka nabena twaiseka nabena bali mwantu abasuma sana so nero twala kujambuloshana nabena kwena.
I visited the funeral house where Mr. Kalumba used to stay. His family, friends and relatives had this to say.
Kalumba ni brother wangu. So imfa ya Kalumba tatwacherimbi. Twala ku hospital tulapola tatwachishokwe bati kutuyafika na moistensi yakwe bati yakufa. So ndesa famuna wishiwe. So tatuishiwe fetu nalanda fetu. Okulwala lelo lokwachichira mwada wa Nairo bali febina. But kumoku bali rwereko bali kona muTH bali kona dialysis kuja bafuma ko bali puisha so rero twachisa umfafi okulokola tawe tabare umfabu so kwatwala ku hospital ife bachisa
Mbuzi. Mr. Kalumba Wilson has been my family friend since childhood. And we received his untimely death with a shock. And as a family, we are saddened. Even up to now, we are trying now to see what we can do.
These are some of the councillors in some wards of Lusaka City, and they are astonished by his demise.
Amashara Ndinevo Muhammad Daniel Mtete and the area councillor for the Lari Wadi 4. Chachiba Chabula Ndasana Pakumfwa info ya Ntungurushi Yesu, Bamea Kalumba, Paliranchita Tocha Palandi Kulandfield to go to Rebomben to Wukanzu. So to support a message to Ntungurushi Yesu Yafa. Cha Tuponya Mubulando Kalambasan.
Lusaka was much saddened and much shocked, I personally.
Sad. We cannot be able to say much. Indeed, Lusaka is covered in darkness of the loss of a father and a city father.
Intelligent in his own way, and how I wish he completed this term so that the results could trickle down to every member of our community.
For QTV News, I'm Alfred Mwansa.
The opposition UPND has shunned the two-day National Democracy Stakeholder Summit organized by the Zambia Center for Interparty Dialogue, ZCID, as a prelude to the national dialogue process. The UPND has on many occasions indicated that they will not be part of the dialogue process as long as it's spearheaded by Zambia Center for Interparty Dialogue, ZCID. Speaking when he officially opened the Stakeholders Summit in Lusaka, Justice Minister Given Lubinda said dialogue is key to resolving any conflicts, that it does not matter who leads the process. Mr. Lubinda has also assured the stakeholders that the government will take into consideration all resolutions of the summit, adding that the enforcement of the resolutions should not worry them. More in the following report.
Stakeholders from different political and non-political affiliations have gathered in Lusaka to discuss pertinently on issues that affect the nation. The Zambia Center for Interparty Dialogue, ZCID, has provided a platform for these stakeholders to meet as they iron out some of the national issues. The second National Democracy Stakeholders Summit, which has started today until tomorrow, is the first step in the ZCID National Dialogue Roadmap. And as earlier indicated by the opposition UPND, who are the major stakeholder in this process, they shunned the event. The party has accused the ZCID of being a moribund and incapable of holding a successive dialogue process. Justice Minister Given Lubinda, who graced the event, pointed out that it does not matter who leads the process, but what is necessary is for the nation to dialogue. Mr. Lubinda has also assured the stakeholders meeting at the summit that the government will put into consideration all the resolutions that will be brought before the attention of the government.
All of you gathered here, you are the ones that should build consensus on who should lead the process. If you are to choose faith-based organizations, so be it. If you are to choose civil society organizations, again, so be it. And if you believe that Zambia and Zambians do not have the capacity to lead this process, and you want the SADC to lead the process, so be it. If you think Zambians do not have the capacity, the SADC doesn't have the capacity, and you want the AU to lead the process, so be it. If Africa doesn't have the capacity, and AU therefore doesn't have the capacity, and you want the Commonwealth to lead the process, so be it.
Speaking earlier, ZCID chairperson Nathan Mulonga observed the need to have harmony in the country, saying it can only be achieved through processes such as the one held in Lusaka.
ZCID is cognizant that the brokering of relationship around reconciliation will include other eminent persons while we provide the platform. I want to underscore these two actions word, facilitate and manage, because that is what ZCID is doing and will continue to do in its quest to ensure that all political players embrace the need for oneness, national unity, and the building the most of the cherished peace that all Zambians are associated to.
This report also took time to talk to some stakeholders who are attending the summit.
We are saddened, though, to note that UPND has once again not decided to participate in this process. Now, that comes as a surprise to us because they have been one of the key proponents for dialogue. Now, what does it mean when they decide to abscond from a very, very important process? Because ultimately, it's about national development. Ultimately, it's not about one individual, one single political party. It's about the people of the Republic of Zambia.
Even at first, we had called upon the Minister of Justice that this constitutional reform should not be tabled in Parliament before the stakeholders can sit down. We understand that at first the constitution was assented on by the President, and after that we are still seeing that there are some lacunas within the constitution that we want to electrify this time.
Stakeholders to come and discuss issues that are of concern to the nation must be supported. We take note of the fact that not everybody has initially been agreeable to this dialogue process. There are others that have got misgivings about it and have therefore stayed away. We respect their decision. Sometimes it's not always possible to have everybody agree at the same time. The ideal situation is that you have everybody there in the end.
But we're very disappointed with the happenings in Chilanga, where there's too much violence when we are discussing dialogue. I think when we are discussing dialogue, all of us should have been here. Maybe even the Chilanga issue would have been one of the issues raised in the meeting over that violence.
This year's summit is being held under the theme Dialogue and Reforms for Peace, Unity, Tolerance, Civility and Development. The nation is optimistic that the summit will serve as a channel of communication and exchange of information among stakeholders on possible reforms around the Constitution, separation of powers, judicial independence, electoral reforms, and the Public Order Act. For QTV News, Albert Mpezeni in Lusaka.
Police in Mansa have arrested a 34-year-old driver at Mansa District Health Office and his 27-year-old wife for allegedly stealing 12 boxes of medicines from the District Health Office. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo has identified the driver as Evans Chibwe and his wife Kasamwa, both of Chipushi Village and the Chief Kalalukawa in Mansa District. Ms. Katongo says the incident occurred on 13th May 2018 around 20:30 hours. She explains that the suspects were arrested as they were leaving the scene of the crime after police intercepted their motor vehicle, Nissan Serena registration number BAB 7208, and recovered 12 boxes of Coartem tablets valued at 29,376 kwacha. Ms. Katongo says the driver has since been charged with theft by public servant, while his wife is charged with theft. She says the duo will appear in court soon. She adds that the guard, identified as Ketason Kaonga, who was working on the material day at the premises, who the couple had connived with, is on the run and police have launched a manhunt. Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya says 300 out of 650 health posts under construction countrywide have so far been completed. In an interview, Dr. Chilufya says government is on course to commence construction works on the remaining health posts before the end of this month. He has since expressed confidence that government will deliver the 650 health posts to the Zambian people in the next 18 months. Meanwhile, Dr. Chilufya says the ministry will continue consulting stakeholders on the National Health Insurance Act. Recently, President Lungu assented to the National Health Insurance NHI Act, which is aimed at improving quality universal health care.
Continuous, and we've never closed the doors. We started consultations way back, even in 2012, there were consultations, and there is evidence of those minutes, the meetings, the study tours, the household surveys done. So consultation has been continuous, and the President has directed that the consultation should continue, and we've continued. So at no one time have we stopped consultations, and the people, all progressive stakeholders, in line with what the President said, are welcome even now to understand what we're doing under National Insurance Law. Continuous.
The Center for Trade Policy and Development, CTPD, has supported calls for Parliament to prioritize the tabling of fiscal legislation in its next sitting. CTPD Executive Director Isaac Mwaipopo says Parliament should particularly pass the Public Finance Management Bill when it resumes its sittings. Mr. Mwaipopo says the CTPD is concerned about the continued reports of some institutions failing to account properly for public resources entrusted to them. He has told QTV News that once the Public Finance Management Bill is passed into law, it will improve transparency and accountability in the management of public funds.
As Parliament resumes sitting, there are a number of expectations from the general citizens as well as from the civil society. Key among the expectations that we hope the Parliament would deal with are issues to do with public finance management. We've continued to get reports citing failure by a number of institutions to properly account for resources that they've been entrusted with. And it is our expectation that key policy documents or legislation pieces that are before Parliament could be expedited. Key among that includes the Public Finance Management Bill. It would be very important that we expedite such processes as they will go a long way in helping to promote transparency and accountability in the management of our public funds. As Parliament,
the Anti-Voter Apathy Project, AVAP, anticipates voter apathy will characterize the Chilanga parliamentary by-election slated for June 5th, 2018, due to the violence that has characterized the campaigns. AVAP Executive Director Richwe Mulwani has told QTV News that women and the elderly are likely to shun the voting process for fear of the violence that has characterized the campaigns. Mr. Mulwani says AVAP has been calling for campaigns violence-free, as violence is a major contributing factor to voter apathy. He states that it is not too late for political parties taking part in the by-election to conduct campaigns devoid of violence.
We know that violence has actually continued even after the head of state and the Minister of Lands, Jean Kapata, indicated that they didn't want to see violence in Chilanga. But we are seeing that the violence has continued. So as an organization that is on the ground, we are saying definitely there in Chilanga we may see a lot of voter apathy because people now are fearing, because Zambians actually are peace-loving people and they wouldn't like to see violence taking root in Chilanga. So our appeal has been that the police need to actually bring to book those that actually perpetrating violence in Chilanga or are still perpetrating violence in Chilanga. And also that the Electoral Commission of Zambia need to use their powers through the Electoral Process Act. When you look at number 110 and sub-article 2, it states very clearly that any political party or candidate that engages into violence actually can be disqualified by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. So these are some of the...
And the Republican Progressive Party, RPP, has equally predicted that the Chilanga parliamentary by-election will be marred by voter apathy. Party spokesperson Danny Kapungwe says most voters in Chilanga will not turn out to vote owing to the political violence the constituency is witnessing. Mr. Kapungwe says it is high time Zambians began to practice politics of peace as opposed to attacking each other whenever they meet in the feud during campaigns.
Political violence that is happening in Chilanga right now is quite unfortunate and saddening to the nation. Us as a Republican Progressive Party, we are so much against what is happening. Why? Because we think it will temper or it will promote voter apathy during elections. The violence we condemn as RPP. It should come to an end now. It's high time that Zambians began to practice politics of peace. We must always, when we are contesting for these positions, we must always have the citizens in mind. And so if we promote, parties promote violence amongst the electorates, that to us as RPP is a saddening situation. And we call on all the political parties that are engaged in that by-election to sit down their people and educate them on the efficacy that these violences would bring to their own people, later on the nation at large.
Governance, Elections, Advocacy, Research Services Gears Initiative Zambia says there is need for the nation to have a legal framework that will guide the constitution-making process, saying lack of this framework causes delay in completing the process. Gears Initiative Zambia Executive Director McDonald Chipenzi says, as things stand, the President can stop the process, delay it, or even suspend it because it is not legally protected. Mr. Chipenzi tells QTV News that the legal framework will also guide the nation on how long the constitution review process should take, unlike leaving it open. He notes that the country embarked on the constitutional review process a long time ago, stating that if there was a legal framework to guide the process, the constitution-making process would have been concluded by now. Mr. Chipenzi has also stressed the need to speed up electoral reforms in order to address some of the loopholes that exist in the electoral system.
This is where we, people who have been involved in the constitution-making process, have been saying, let any constitution-making process have a legal framework. A legal framework will protect bullying by one individual or group of individuals. A legal process will also give timelines on how, when these things should be done. But as it has been demonstrated, the president now, over this constitution-making process, has got power to stop the constitution-making process. He has got power to delay the constitution-making process. He has even power to accelerate the constitution-making process. Is this what we want? That all the powers in the constitution-making process be left in one person? I don't think so. That is undemocratic. What we expected is a legal framework that should guide us. When we have such things, when and how do we suspend? Who suspends who?
Political scientist Dr. Alex Ngoma says political violence is becoming a threat to Zambia's long-standing international image of being a peaceful nation. Dr. Ngoma tells QTV News that the country has maintained a good image as a peaceful country since time immemorial. He has warned that if violence is allowed to continue, it is likely to dent the nation's credentials of being a peaceful nation. Dr. Ngoma is therefore calling on leaders at all levels that if the scourge of violence is to end, it is important that they team up and work together in protecting Zambia's peaceful image.
The scourge of political violence is actually denting our credentials as a nation. We are known to be very, very peaceful. And so it is important for us to understand that if we are to bring violence to an end, it is entirely up to us, first of all, to have the will to stop it, and then to do everything in our power. Politics is not intended to pit one Zambian against another. Politics is not intended to divide us up as a nation. Politics is not an opportunity for us to attack each other. That's why it is important for us to have this kind of understanding, and from there resolve that we will stamp out political violence once and for all.
The Non-Governmental Organizations Coordinating Council, NGOCC, has joined other stakeholders in welcoming President Edgar Lungu's directive for the constitution reform process to be put on hold to pave way for a fruitful dialogue process without interference. NGOCC chairperson Sarah Longwe says the successful holding of the impending political dialogue will invigorate the One Zambia, One Nation national motto and restore the spirit of love among political players in the country. Ms. Longwe has told Q News that this is why the women movement is particularly happy that President Lungu has heeded calls from the electorate for the country to undertake some constitutional reforms and ensure that political dialogue takes place between the ruling and the party in the opposition. She explains that the women movement is pleased because it has waited for so long for President Lungu to agree to dialogue with the UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema in order to iron out their differences. And Ms. Longwe has advised politicians not to be divided based on their political affiliation because it is not sinister to belong to either the opposition or the ruling party. She says both the ruling and the opposition parties need each other for the governance system of the country to flourish.
This is what we Zambians, and especially us women's movement, have been looking for, because we know that this dialogue will put us back to our One Zambia, One Nation. It is not a crime to be in opposition, nor is it a crime to be in government as a party, as a political party. So we need each other. Governance is both by those who are the ruling party and those who are in opposition. because you give each other checks and you tell each other, if you don't do it right, I'll come and get it from you. And that's right. That's okay. That's what politics is about. Politics is about being in the ruling situation where you implement your manifesto and your objectives of your existence, which is for the people. So we are very, very happy.
The National Biosafety Authority, NBA, says it has approved another HIV vaccine clinical trial for the prevention of HIV-1 infection in women. NBA Chief Executive Officer Lacson Tonga tells Q News that the Phase 2 trial, which will involve about 500 participants, will be conducted in Lusaka and Ndola by the Center for Infectious Disease Research in Zambia, CIDERS, and the Zambia Emory HIV Research Project, ZAREP. Mr. Tonga says the NBA board met last week on Friday and, among other things, approved the CIDERS and the ZAREP controlled Phase 2B clinical research trial, which will be conducted over a period of 3 years. He explains that the study will enroll 2,600 health, HIV-1 and infected female volunteers aged between 18 to 35 years across the sites in Zambia, South Africa, Mozambique, Zimbabwe and Malawi. Mr. Tonga says Zambia will have 3 sites, 2 in Lusaka at Matero Clinic and ZAREP Lusaka and 1 in Ndola. Local Government Minister Vincent Mwale says government remains committed to implementing business-friendly policies aimed at attracting foreign direct investment, which will see the growth of the economy. Speaking when he officiated at the groundbreaking ceremony for the construction of over 40 million United States dollars ultra-modern Standard Chartered Bank head office in Lusaka, Mr. Mwale said government remains committed to ensuring that Zambia has a conducive economic and business environment where companies can conduct their business more efficiently. Mr. Mwale says Standard Chartered Bank remains a key partner in various areas where government places priority, as can be seen through the bank's 15% contribution in funding towards the project aimed at decongesting the city of Lusaka, recently launched by President Edgar Lungu and the President of India. He states that government is determined to ensure that there is sustained economic growth by ensuring that industry players have access to state-of-the-art infrastructure.
We want to ensure ordinary Zambians and industry players have access to state-of-the-art infrastructure, which will help in delivery of goods and services to our people. Today, we are witnessing yet another investment being made by the bank through the construction of the ultra-modern office space that will accommodate the head office. This is another key demonstration of your commitment as a bank to the country's development. I'm actually particularly excited to hear that there will be a wellness center within this ultra-modern building. We launched with the President launched the Keep Zambia Clean, Green and Healthy campaign. And you were well ahead of everyone when you planned to have a wellness facility within this same facility. This is what we want to see. In fact, we are discussing with all municipal councils that as they approve diagrams and plans for buildings for companies and corporates such as this one, they must make sure that we have embedded in those plans wellness facilities so that we can take care of our well-being. So we do not have to spend so much money stocking medicines in the hospitals. We can actually avoid. So we keep Zambia clean, green, and I think that you will take care of the environment here, and also you are taking care of your employees. Congratulations.
Speaking earlier, Standard Chartered Bank Zambia Chief Executive Officer Herman Kasekende said the new 5-floor head office will take 2 years and 8 months to be built.
Today, we are even more excited as we are hitting yet another milestone in Zambia. We are breaking ground at the site that will house our new state-of-the-art head office, which should be ready in 2020. At this location will stand a modern building, 5 floors high, where all our units in Zambia, in Lusaka, will actually be housed in a modern and environment-friendly environment. This will be the first corporate office building in Zambia with a green building certification called EDGE, Excellence in Design for Greater Efficiencies, which is a green building rating system for new residential and commercial buildings in emerging markets created by the IFC, a member of the World Bank Group. We as a bank are proud to lead the way in driving better and more responsible use of energy in Zambia. It is also a demonstration for us that we are investing in our markets, which speaks volumes about Standard Chartered Bank's commitment to Zambia.
And Standard Chartered Bank South Africa and Southern Africa Chief Executive Officer Kweku Addo urged governments to complement the private sector's efforts in growing and diversifying the economy by being clear in most reforms, especially in the banking sector.
We've put up a new head office in Nigeria. We've done so in Kenya. We're about to commission the one in Ghana. And I think that it reflects, as I said, the seriousness with which we take this continent. My plea, though, through the Honorable Minister, is that this commitment needs to be reciprocated by policymakers such as you, who have the mandate to implement reforms that can make the economies grow faster than they are doing at the moment. I think there's a lot of opportunity for Africa when we talk to the investor community out of the continent. But there needs to be more policy clarity and certain reforms that can pave the way for investment to pour into the continent, not the least Zambia. So my message to you is, this is only the beginning. It's just the building. What matters is what happens within the building. And I can assure you that we're going to continue to invest. We're investing in the digital technology, which is the future. We are going to be agile, but we also want to partner with governments across our presence markets to ensure that
the Southern Africa Cross-Border Traders Association, SACBT Zambia chapter, has noted the need for governments to work on improving transport infrastructure in the country as a way of encouraging regional integration. Association Secretary General Jacob Makambwe has noted with concern how unserviced pontoons and dilapidated roads are affecting regional trade. Mr. Makambwe says there cannot be effective regional trade without supporting infrastructure such as roads, bridges and pontoons. He says there is need, therefore, for government to ensure it improves on transport infrastructure in order to respond to different needs of small, medium and large-scale traders.
Now, you see the other problem that we always have, like especially on the Zambian side, that the services that are offered by the pontoon, is it that company that is run by the government that is managing the pontoons? Most of the pontoons that are running on those particular rivers are not up to date in terms of servicing and in terms of being up to date. At times you can go there, you would find they are not working. So we want to call upon the government to make sure that they improve, especially in the areas where road infrastructure and bridges have not been constructed, to facilitate for regional integration, especially in Africa. For example, now that Zambia is actually party to the tripartite free trade area, and also to the continental free trade area, of which there is a possibility that now the entire Africa is going to be linked as one trading area. So we need to improve the infrastructure and also infrastructure that is going to respond to the needs of different type of traders, whether those that are using road transport, those that are using water transport. And I think
that item concludes our news, but before we go, here is a recap of stories in the headlines. Lusaka Mayor Wilson Kalumba has died. The opposition UPND has shunned the National Democracy Stakeholders Summit organized by the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID. Police in Mansa have arrested a couple for stealing 12 boxes of medical drugs from the district health office. That's it for the news. Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye. God bless.